Hello. Is it time for Portland to get out of the nostalgia, quit focusing on the way that Portland was, and move on? That was the most popular question on the blog this week, and it sparked conversation, debate, perspective, anger. I'll definitely talk about that as it was the most popular story. But before I get there, a couple posts came across my desk this week, and they were kind of like not at odds with one another, but they were different sides of a perspective around AI and what it could potentially do to the venture capital industry. One side of it, and I'll link both of these up so you can read them. I just found it interesting that they both kind of happened at the same time. One side was talking about AI in terms of how businesses were developing products or how big businesses had to be to develop products. This was interesting to me because I often talk with people about how the advent of AI feels very similar to me to the advent of cloud architecture. Prior to the cloud, no matter how big a tech company was, whether it was a startup or a going concern, they often needed a room full of servers and an IT group to manage those servers. And as they grew, the number of servers grew, the amount of IT people grew. And then, of course, they still needed the people to develop the product and market the product and sell the product and run the business and all those kind of things. All by way of saying that back in the day, prior to the cloud, when everybody was serving their own stuff, you needed a lot of real estate to hold that stuff. And the amazing thing for me about cloud architecture and how it changed the world of startups was largely around real estate. No longer did you need a significant footprint, a significant office to build a company. You can have, just the people who are doing the things and building the stuff, a very small group of people, and they could be pushing stuff to the cloud and you'd be accessing it through a browser or software as a service. And it really reduced the complexity of how big a company needed to be to potentially be successful. Okay. So cloud causes this reduction in staffing sizes in technology. AI is having a very similar effect. And not only is it reducing the number of people needed to build products that have the potential to achieve a significant trajectory, it also reduces the time to market or the time it may take folks to get a viable product out there. So in a world where you don't need a ton of real estate, you're not incurring a ton of costs in terms of hosting and delivering your software, and you're not needing a huge runway to build up software to bring to market to start generating revenue and start supporting your company on revenue alone, where does VC fit in there? And that's the question. Like, is AI going to disrupt VC in that companies will not need to sell their equity to get capital to have runway if they can move super fast and super nimble? So that's one side. And then the other side is Mark Andreessen. I don't know. Whenever Mark Andreessen writes anything, it just blows up on the internet for obvious reasons. But this one came across my desk, and his premise was that being a venture capitalist, being a VC, is something that is probably not going to be disrupted by AI anytime soon. That the people who serve those roles are making such nuanced and informed decisions that it's not something that artificial intelligence can necessarily do effectively. So while on one side, businesses being disrupted may be negating the need for significant venture capital at early stages, and on the other side, AI may have absolutely no effect on the people making those decisions about the companies that do need capital. So it's just, I don't know why. It's not even a dichotomy. It was just like an interesting two things to hit my desk simultaneously, and really just got me to thinking about the broader industry and the impact of AI on the industry rather than just specific tactical applications of AI or certain roles being affected by AI. This kind of seemed to, at the same time, talk about the impact of AI on the economic dynamics of the startup community, and especially on a community that has mythologically predicated its existence on venture capital, whether that is a reality or not, these dynamics changing in that storyline could have significant short-term and long-term effects for the world of startups. Let's get back to that Portland nostalgia thing. So The Post, which was written by Angel Medina, is Time to Move On was the title. It really takes you through this pervasive desire to reflect on how Portland was prior to the pandemic, and really getting wrapped up in that nostalgia in almost a way that is debilitating or prevents people from moving forward to think about how Portland could be. Now, if you're not familiar with Angel, he, has started a number of coffee shops here in town, a number of restaurants, highly recognized and lauded restaurants and coffee shops. His perspective is it's hospitality. It's the food, it's the beverage, it's the bars, it's the coffee shops. It is this moment in time that we seem to nostalgically remember as being such an amazing time, really centered around that hospitality. And The Post is just great. I just loved that he took a position, he has a point of view, and he sticks with that point of view and premise and hypothesis. But again, from my perspective as someone who enjoys well-written things, I immediately had the opportunity to adopt that template and say, how could I reflect on the startup community in this context? How could I reflect on the small business community in this context? How could I reflect on consumer products and what they mean to Portland? So I would encourage you to read the whole piece, but I would just like to give you an amuse-bouche or hors d'oeuvre to this piece. So this is a passage I would like to read from Time to Move On by Angel Medina. The old Portland only ever existed because of Portland's culinary scene that made Portland relevant in the first place. It existed because Feast gave Portland's food scene national credibility. Sprinkle in a few celebrated beer festivals, some summer concerts, and even the occasional marquee sporting event, and there was no city that could touch Portland. This place was big enough to be relevant, but small enough for tourists to experience every quadrant and every one of its micro neighborhoods over one weekend. It still does. So it still has that, still has these elements, and I love that. Big enough to be relevant. I love that because I always say Portland's big enough to be statistically relevant, but small enough that one person can still make a difference. And I believe that. And I believe people taking these positions, whether you agree with them or completely disagree with them, people standing up and voicing these kind of things about Portland, its potential, and what we need to do to help build the next version of this city, I think are all critically important. So I realize not exactly startup oriented, but definitely oriented toward Portland, definitely oriented to what Portland can be or could be, and what we all need to do to help move the city forward. So thank you, Angel, for penning that piece and for, pissing people off and getting other people who lauded the work. I don't know why this is such a heady episode. I'm not an intellectual, but I'm talking about the literary construct of a blog post. I'm talking about the potential conflict of these two other pieces and what that means for our industry. Kind of going in a little bit of a strange direction for what I usually do, but this is where my head is today. This is what I see happening, and these were the things that were interesting to me and apparently interesting to you, because these are the things that were bubbling up on the blog as the most popular post. Okay, maybe this is why I'm feeling so literary this episode. Turns out Jelani Memory, founder of A Kid's Book About, which became A Kid's Co., was recognized, as was A Kid's Co., by the 2025 Oregon Book Awards. Jelani received an award for his work around children's literature with his series of books and other media for kids, helping parents and kids have difficult conversations. I don't want to misspeak on the name of the award, so I want to read it off. It is the Walt Morey Young Readers Literary Legacy Award. So it's not often you have startups winning literary awards. It's not often you have this show being so literary. So it's a special show in many ways. But congratulations to Jelani, the company he built, and for getting a recognition that is so richly deserved. Congratulations on making it to May, a whole new month, a month of celebrating Asian American, and Pacific Islander heritage. It's that month in terms of recognizing people. And it happens to be the month that also hosts Portland Startup Week. Now, two of those have some crossover because we're hosting a Startup Founders and Startup Community Leaders Where Are They Now event, our kind of fireside chat event that brings all kinds of folks from Built Oregon and Pitch Black and Pi and other community efforts together to really just learn from people who've either been here a while, people we may have lost touch with, people who are newer to the community, but doing really interesting and meaningful things. That's what that whole series is about. And because it is AAPI month, we are focused on AAPI founders and community leaders. So I wanted to let you know, because one of the critiques, the feedback from some of the events we've been running is people would like more context. Like, who are these people I'm seeing on stage before they get on stage? Like, how do I do my homework so I'm prepared to better immerse myself in the experience and learn from these folks or understand the context from which they are speaking? And so I thought it would be helpful if I just gave you the alphabetical list of the speakers who will be doing the fireside chat. Of course, our host doing the interviews will be Julia Nero, who is a Pi alum and mentor, and a YC alum, and a Techstars alum, and an alum. And she was a guest during our fireside chats focused on women founders, and she was kind enough to come back to host this one and be the one chatting with these folks. But in any case, let me take you through the folks who are going to be there talking to you, the audience, at Instrument, May 13th, part of Portland Startup Week. Totally free. There may also be a little surprise for people who show up. We're working on a little thing potentially. So please, there's still room. Please RSVP. Show up, hang out with us at Instrument, and get to hear more from these folks who I'm going to read off to you right now. Pat Chung from the Metro Region Innovation Hub, Zhou Fong from Intersectional Group, John Furukawa from Uncorked Studios, Kimiko Matsuda from Multnomah Whiskey Library and Pitch Black Food, Holly Ong from Sabeho, Tom Sollett of Asian American Town, which does Legendary Makers Market and the upcoming I Hope You Get Rich pitch competition, Ken Tamita, old school Portland startup-y type from Grove Made that makes like beautiful furniture and things and stuff. Lisa Tran from Tantan Cafe and Delicatessen, which is amazing. And she also did a line of sauces based on the work they do at Tantan. And Quang Trong from Urban Form. All of those folks will be joining us on May 13th. I hope you'll be joining us as well. And even if you can't join us, I hope you take advantage of all of the events that are occurring that week during Portland Startup Week. The schedule's filling up. Stuff continues to be added, but it's easy to be busy every single day of the week during Portland Startup Week, so I hope you take advantage of it. Back when I started Silicon Florist, the blog that has since become this show, I mean, the blog's still there, but it's really just me scripting throughout the week to provide you details on the show. Way back when, the writing, the inspiration, the companies, the people I was covering largely came out of the open source community in Portland, which was very substantial at the time. And we had OSCON here, which is the largest gathering of open source folks in the world, used to come here year after year. There were tons of like user groups and people focused on specific languages, be they Ruby or Perl or Python or what have you. Just a lot of energy around open source. So I used to spend a lot more time covering open source. Back then, one of the organizations I used to cover on a regular basis was the Oregon State University Open Source Lab. The Open Source Lab is this setup that hosts a bunch of open source projects. So if you're contributing to larger projects like Apache or Linux or Drupal or what have you, it's highly likely that OSU OSL has some role in the hosting. The problem is that, like many folks who are grant funded or sponsor funded, they've hit a rough patch and they are running short on funding. So they put out a public call to support them, to help keep this project alive. The number they put out there is $250,000. They're asking the community to rally around this. This is something that is happening in short order. It is dire. Like by mid-May, if they don't come up with this funding, the project could suffer and potentially be shut down. So I'm just helping put the call out there. If you participated in open source, if you care about open source, if you have the wherewithal to contribute some form of support, or if you know a corporation or organization that benefits from open source that may be willing to contribute to financially to saving the OSU OSL, then I would love for you to let them know about this too. But in any case, I always hate sharing news like this, but I want to make sure you know about it. So Open Source Lab in trouble, needing some funding to stay alive. And I'm hopeful that we as a community can support an organization that has done so much to support the world of open source. I wanted to make sure that you saw I'm caving to peer pressure. You win. You kept asking for it. You're like, yeah, you should do this thing and you should do more of that. And okay. Everybody knows somebody that somebody else should know. Fine. I'm going to do it. People have been asking for me to get back into long form interview, conversational format with a guest. Honestly, they're just tired of sitting here looking at me day in and day out, and they would like some variety. So I hear you, heard. I'm going to do it. I'm preparing. I'm getting stuff ready, but I at least have a name for the concept. It's called the Long Con, as in the long conversations. And it's going to be me sitting down with people I've had the opportunity to encounter, meet, befriend in the 30 years I've been working in startups. So it will be, again, a longer format. I'll do stuff here on YouTube. I've created a separate podcast stream. So if you're not interested in that, or maybe upon hearing that, you're no longer interested in this, whatever the case, you'll have a way of consuming the content that you want to consume. I'm scheduling people to have the conversations with. I'm getting stuff set up. So content should be rolling out here pretty quickly. I'm excited about it. I think, I really enjoy that format and having those kind of conversations. And I sincerely hope you'll enjoy it too. Okay, that's it for your literary version of the Portland startup news. There wasn't a lot of funding or product launch kind of things going on, but there were some really interesting blog posts. So I hope you have time to sit down with those posts and read them and consider them. I hope you're doing okay and hanging in there. And until we get the chance to chat again, please keep up the good work.